Okay, welcome back to the show. After our little break, why don't we have some fun and talk about the draft and development camp that happened? The draft was the 27th and 28th of June. Dev camp was shortly after, from June 30th to July 2nd. Why don't we start with the man himself, Roger McQueen, on night one of the draft, was taken with the 10th overall pick from the Ducks. What were your thoughts heading into the draft about McQueen, and now that you've seen him a couple times on the ice and talked to him?
Well, I wasn't sure if he was going to get to the Ducks for a little bit. I think maybe around pick 7 or 8, I kind of thought that okay, this is a very real possibility. And then especially at 9 when Radim Murtka came off the board, it was kind of like okay, well they've got to take him now, right? He's got to be the pick. So he's a really great kid. I think you can say that about a lot of players, a lot of prospects. Seems like a really great kid. Just really looking forward to playing hockey. I think, especially because he didn't get to do that a lot last year with his back injury. And, that was the big reason why he kind of fell in the draft is because of the concerns of his back fracture. And then not only the recovery, but also the fact that he came back and then he had a muscle issue after just because he wasn't able to, he felt like he wasn't comfortable relying on his back. But I mean, everything checks out. We talked to Martin Madden, we talked to Pat Verbeek. They both said that they felt comfortable enough looking at the medicals and everything that he's been through. They felt comfortable enough looking at that to draft him and make him a high pick. So, I mean, if they're good with it, I'm good with it. Like at the end of the day, that's not my job to kind of assess that. We kind of just assess the players that they pick and not who to pick. Um, but yeah, just a really big kid too as well. And he's still got room to grow, which is kind of crazy considering he's 6'6". But definitely filling out physically, I think is going to be kind of a big priority for him moving forward. I think he's going back to playing the WHL this upcoming season. So being able to get a full however many games season they have in the CHL, I think that would be really beneficial for him just because he didn't play that much. I think he showed in the limited amount of time that he played last year that he can be a force. And now going back and being able to play a full season and just dominate, kind of like what Beckett Sennecke has done for the last couple of years, I think that will be really helpful for his development.
Yeah, going, yeah, like you said, at 10, it's a lot easier to take a risk on or take a chance on someone like that coming off of that injury. A little higher in the draft, it might make you pause a little bit more, but yeah, once weirdly when uh the Kraken took Jake O'Brien at 8, and then yeah, like Merker went at 9, and then I don't know who else would you have taken at 10. Roger McQueen seemed to be he was the guy we had targeted heading into the draft, and that was, I don't know who else would have been that pick. So, and any other year, and had he not sustained that injury, he's a top 5 player all day, and probably even top 3 based on just his upside alone. I know he's older for the draft, um, for this year's draft, but seeing him on the ice, and no question the talent is there. I thought he was super impressive. That's the skills that he possesses and the way he moves on the ice is like it can be jaw-dropping at times just because while the skating isn't perfect, he covers so much ice that you don't have to be perfect at that rate. And the edges are good enough. He can, he uses his body well. He's got it, so he's got a knowledge of how to assess situations just from watching film and watching him at development camp. He's just a step above the rest of the guys there at camp for the most part. So I was all for that pick when it happened. I'm even more on board now. Are you concerned at all about the back moving forward, or are you buying what he's saying, what the team staff is saying, where if it's just like any other fracture, once it's healed, it's healed. It just needed some rest.
Yeah, I believe it. I think that like there's things where like teams kind of push stuff under the rug and whatnot, but I think right now, I think they truly do believe that it's past him. Like maybe that's something, hopefully it's not something that crops back up in the future, but I think that the way they went about it, like he went out and saw a specialist when he was continuing to have issues. They got everything cleaned up. I think now that he's able to kind of go through the off season and like maybe he can take some more rest just because it is the off season and then get back and ready to go for the upcoming season in a couple of weeks or in a month or so. Um, yeah, I think that what they said is what they truly believe, and I think he truly believes that.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see where he plays too this year. I know you mentioned he's seems like he's going back to the WHL. Their schedule is like they play 60 games and then a full slate of playoff rounds. Not a lot of time to bulk up theoretically in that time, which is seems like his biggest need, but also you can also consider his biggest need to be just getting on the ice and playing as many games as possible, and maybe dominating would be good for him, but it's kind of a pros and cons of each, right? Like, do you want him playing 40 games while being able to work out at college? Because NCAA is an option. 40 games and being able to work out throughout the week and play against older players, maybe more physical? Or do you want him to just be on the ice and to be able to get back to game speed? I don't know. I really don't at this point. And especially because the WHL keeps getting worse and worse as far as, because all these players are opting for the NCAA route.
Yeah,
Um,
I think you can kind of look at like what Seneca did over the past season. He gained a lot of weight. I think he grew an inch and he gained like 13 pounds. So it is possible for McQueen to kind of follow that same path in terms of putting on weight while still playing at the CHL level. I know some people had kind of tossed around the notion that McQueen hadn't signed his ELC yet, just because if he does, he doesn't have the option of college anymore after that. So maybe that's kind of what they're trying to assess still is whether the right option for him is either going to play at college or just going back to Brandon and playing in the WHL next season.
yeah, that'll be definitely one of the more interesting off-season storylines to monitor. And yeah, I honestly don't know what I would do in either of their situations, but um I mean, yeah, just as far as the kid goes, he's great. I mean, he's actually got a personality. He's fun. Like the way he danced Seneca in that one rep was great. Yeah, just energetic kid, and it's kind of infectious. When he smiles, you want to smile, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Beckett because his options are CHL or NHL again. Um, they're reworking some stuff in the CBA, but it sounds like it's not gonna matter as far as this upcoming season. It'll kick in when the CBA kicks in next year. Um, so yeah, he's stuck between the CHL and the NHL. It seems like he's too good to go back, and especially again with them losing so many players to the NCAA. But at the same time, I'm not so sure he's NHL ready, and the Ducks could, uh, I guess, what would you say? Like they would make a case for him to be AHL eligible, and the NHL could take that into consideration. Um, but what are your thoughts about his game where it is now, how it's improved now that we've seen him in two separate development camps?
Yeah, it's just a really tough like situation. Like you said, I think he has reached the point where there's not really anything for him left to prove in the OHL. Like he needs to be playing at a level that's higher than that. I don't think he's quite NHL ready yet, or at least not on a full-time basis. So maybe you do something like they did with Leo Carlson in his first season, where you kind of drip feed him and you get him
Hmm.
like a couple of games every week, and then the rest of it is just off ice, getting him stronger and getting adjusted to the physicality of the NHL. Because at the end of the day, like the 9 game thing, like the slide option and all that, like if they don't care about that, that doesn't matter. Like that's literally just for being able to eke out another year of his entry level contract. But if they feel like he should be playing NHL games, whether it's every like night in night out or doing kind of similar to the Leo plan, then like that option doesn't matter. It's like they're just going to play him, and maybe it's more beneficial for him to be up with the big club and kind of see how things are going to be, and then he transitions into a full time role next season. because then at that point he's what, like 21. Like it's not the end of the day, or it's not the whatever the phrase for it.
End
You
of the
know what I
world.
mean? Yeah, the end of the world. It's not the end of the world if he burns a year off his entry level contract, because if that helps turn him into a more capable player down the road, instead of having him go back to the OHL and just dominate for a third straight year where he's not really learning anything, or he's not um, really adding anything new to his game. It's just kind of the same old routine. Then that's going to be a lot better for him, because then now you have a player that's going to be ready for a full time NHL role, and maybe guys that you have right now are not going to be on the team next year, and then you can have Sennecke just slide into that role effortlessly. So, um, yeah, it just really sucks that he's kind of in this situation where it's like, well, you need to go back to this level that you've already shown like you're better than now, or you have to go to this level where maybe you're not quite ready, but we don't have any other options for you. So I don't know how the AHL like exceptional status goes. Maybe they can kind of do like what they did with Tristan Luneau a couple of years ago, where they send him down for like an AHL conditioning stint, and he can play down there for a little bit, and then maybe they kind of gauge it. I think the most crucial part is you want to kind of have him in a stable situation until they get to World Juniors, because you would assume that he's going to be on Team Canada's World Junior squad. And so then after he kind of does that, maybe he does really well against his age group, then you can kind of assess where you want to go from there. And then at that point, you're already kind of at the midway point of the season. So if you want to send him back to juniors, or you want to keep him up at the NHL level, whatnot, I think then things become a little bit more clear at that point.
It's also very interesting because the organization has committed fully to making the playoffs next season. And I don't really know if injecting a rookie, a volatile rookie, into that situation is quite beneficial for the team, especially because when you just look at the depth chart right now, the top nine looks pretty full. So someone, whether it's Beckett or someone else, is going to have to assume a fourth line role if he's going to make the team. Injuries happen, and that might be the deciding factor. Maybe give him as much runway as possible, and this could all be his spot to win. Like we talked to Madden a couple months ago, and he said that he just needs to get stronger. The skill level's there. He's ready. You know, everything except physical strength. And he's got 2 months here until training camp to get stronger. He's already, like you said, gotten stronger. He looks bigger. I mean, I think the Leo plan is interesting. The Shane Wright slash Tristan Luneau plan is interesting. He may just come out and just win the job, because we've seen how he is when he's motivated. He went on a couple hell of a he went on a pair of crazy productive playoff runs the last 2 seasons, and he was super motivated when he got denied from the Team Canada selection camp last year. So I'll be really interested to see it. A motivated, healthy Beckett Sennecke at training camp. And I'm not betting against him whatsoever. I think the skill is there. And um, I honestly think he can help the team win right out of the gate, kind of. And especially, with Quenneville as coach, and in a good environment. But if not, it's not, again, not the end of the world to send him back. If you're worried about a ELC slide rule on a third overall pick, then maybe you made the wrong third overall pick, because that shouldn't matter down the road when you're negotiating, 7-year contracts in the future.
Yeah.
So
Um, yeah, I think, like there's a concern with like a lot of young players is like the effort level sometimes, and like on the defensive side. And I think we kind of saw that a little bit during the OHL playoffs. Um, and then, maybe like I don't want to sound like too like archaic, but maybe having him in a bottom like level role, like a bottom six role, maybe that helps him iron out some of that stuff, because he's going to be playing like with not so like skilled players necessarily. Like he's going to have to play kind of a different role. So maybe that helps him figure out like, oh, this is where I need to kind of improve in, and then I can move up the ranks. So
yeah, you can argue if it mattered or not, but we saw that happen with Cutter Gauthier, and he himself, you know, attributed that time on the fourth line to, really ironing out the details and the effort level in his game. So there is value to it if that's an option. I think that that'll be interesting actually. Um, but I guess we'll see. Um, you want to move on to what any players stand out that you want to talk about from development camp or the draft in particular?
Yeah, there's a couple. I think just from this draft class, I was really impressed with Eric Nilsson's skating. Um, Martin Madden had kind of spoken about how he feels like he's got a little bit of William Karlsson to him. He kind of mentioned that about Lucas Pettersson last year. It's interesting just because he played in Sweden this past season. And now he's going to be making the move to Michigan State, playing college hockey. He's spoken about how he kind of wants to get stronger and bigger. His physicality, just because the game in North America is a lot different from Sweden. You also have the smaller rink, so um, I think the tools that he has, like the skating, is just I was really impressed with his edges, but just he's really dependable in the defensive zone, and so um, it's in a way it's for me it's kind of similar to when they took Nathan Gaucher a couple of years ago. Is like it's kind of like that same old where you want a guy that's going to be kind of capable of that shutdown role, right? Because you have Leo and you have McTavish; those are going to be kind of the more offensively inclined guys, but then you need guys that are kind of capable of being that shutdown role. Kind of maybe not the same exact mold, but like the Panthers, for example, they have Anton Lindell, and he's kind of helping shape that like that strong center depth that the Panthers have. And so you can get someone kind of like that, like if Eric Nilsson can be that, or Pedersen or somebody. If you have that kind of behind Leo and McTavish, then that's kind of a home run, because not every pick needs to be like the super flashy, like 100-point scorer or whatnot, right? Because every guy has different roles. So I was really impressed with the way that he operated, just because like he doesn't do anything like over the top, but he's just really good at like a lot of things. And then just two other guys that I was pretty impressed with from the draft class were Elijah Neunschwander, the goalie that they drafted out of the Swiss league. It wasn't even just like his size or his actual like goaltending ability, so to speak. I was just really impressed with how well he plays the puck.
Mhm.
Like there's a lot of goaltenders in the NHL where it's like they come out to play the puck and you're like, oh no, like get back in the crease. So I think the Ducks, they, especially just looking at like his profile and everything when they took him, I thought, okay, maybe this might be a little bit of a reach. He seems like really raw. And then you look at the tape, and it's obviously he's a bit raw just because he's a taller goalie. It's a little bit similar to Damian Clara when they took him in the second round a few years ago. But yeah, just the way he plays the puck, like he's so confident and so calm too with the puck. Like just watching him go through puck playing drills, it's almost like he's like a position player in a goalie's body, just the way he plays the puck. And then watching him play the puck in game scenarios too, I was really impressed. Like it's not even just behind the net, like in the trapezoid, it was coming out to play the puck and just zipping passes up the ice, like when they're on the power play. So I was really impressed in that aspect. And then the last guy that I was kind of stood out to me was Anthony Elaine Samaki, who they drafted out of the USHL. And he's going to be playing college hockey this year, which I thought was pretty interesting. He spoke a little bit about how he kind of needs to get a little bit smarter at the game and just improve his hockey IQ. So I thought that was interesting, because a lot of the times I feel like you don't hear guys talk about that. They talk about, oh, I need to get bigger, faster,
Right.
stronger, right? That's the big cliche. So the fact that he was open about, oh, I need to kind of improve like my hockey sense, I think that's great, because that shows like he's very teachable. He's very open to kind of addressing what he needs to get better at. And so I was really impressed with his skating, like his skating, his mobility, his four-way mobility it really stood out to me. Um, and also his shot had been graded kind of low by elite
Mhm.
prospects, and it didn't look too bad. So I'm wondering if maybe that comes back to the hockey sense part, where maybe he just doesn't get many shots through traffic.
Yeah, I was definitely impressed with his skill and definitely the skating, and honestly the skating from a lot of players in this draft class and the last draft class too. I thought because these development camps, that's one of the biggest emphases is just skating. And looking at the pool as a whole, a lot of good skaters, especially the defensemen that they took in this draft. You know, Boyes, Drew Shock, Mathieu, and obviously Elaine Samaki too. Like a lot of really good skating defensemen. And yeah, Nilsson really popped. I think just how effortless he plays, and not in a like lazy way, but just the things he does. He just makes it look so like kind of like Miro Heiskanen, where he's just like, how are you covering this much ice without taking a stride? Um, and then yeah, Lucas Pettersson from last draft. I think he's got more offensive skill than I think we had expected. He scored a good amount in Hockey Allsvenskan, Sweden's minor league or Division Two. But I was really impressed with his puck skills and his shot and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing those two Swedish players moving forward. Yeah, not from this draft class too. I like Noah Reed. There wasn't a lot of tape on him. I know he served kind of a fourth line role with the London Knights, but I think there's more offense there, and with a bigger role, he'll be able to kind of expand or explore the reaches of that. So I really liked this draft class as a whole. I think there's a good mix of upside and floor with someone with guys like Nilsson and Boyes, who those guys are going to be NHLers. Yeah, they're going to play over 100 games in the NHL. I can pretty much guarantee it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, they're the things that they do, their fundamentals are pretty flawless. They're the guys who just need to get bigger, stronger. But yeah, they do the things that coaches like, and they're responsible enough to elevate their floors to at least being able to play in the NHL one day. So I'm pretty confident in that statement. Do you have anything else to add with those guys or with the development camp?
I mean, I like Alex Blaze game a lot.
Hmm.
I feel like he's a really smart player. He was really good for Rimouski, especially in the Memorial Cup when they played against London. I think he's
Hmm.
just really smart. Like the way he's kind of able to utilize the space that he has, especially as a smaller player. I think is really nice. Like he's just so good at seeing the ice and using his playmaking skills. I think the only issue is his size. Like he's a really smart player. He's able to handle some physicality, but I mean, just because he's so small, like sometimes that just kind of doesn't work in his favor. And he kind of spoken a little bit about that at development camp. That's why he's going to play college hockey this upcoming season, is he wants to play against bigger and older, stronger guys. And I think that can actually be beneficial to him. It's not like he's just saying, "Oh, well, this is like what I'm gonna do," and like this kind of like the carbon copy answers. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he kind of does. And I think Charles Ulyanskis, the
Mm.
Latvian defenseman that they took last year, he's going to be at UConn as well. So it will be really cool to, I don't know how it's going to be accessible, but being able to watch those three guys at UConn, I will be really interesting to kind of see how their development goes as the season progresses. And then yeah, there wasn't a lot of like other standouts necessarily for me.
Hmm.
I think Austin Bernovic is a really smart player, but his skating is just it needs a lot of improvement. And you know, he'd spoken about that as much too when we talked to him at Dev Camp, is he wants to get the first three steps a lot better. And that's kind of it kind of reminds me of Leo Carlson
Yeah, he
in
said
his
that too.
draft year. He had said almost the exact same thing. And because you can see the tools with Brenovic too. It's like he was a 6th round pick and he made the U.S. World Junior squad. I feel like you don't see that very often, where a pick that low is part of such a stacked team, because the U.S. World Junior squad every year is just full of guys that end up having very successful NHL careers. So for him to be kind of part of that is very impressive. It kind of reminds me, it's not the same thing, but it kind of reminds me of when Troy Terry was on the World Junior squad.
Hmm.
during his years. Like he is kind of a lower pick, played a bottom six role, and he's had a fantastic career. I mean, I think Brnovic has a lot more to clean up than Terry did at the time, but it's yeah, I think that is the one thing that's holding Brnovic back. Obviously, it's a very huge factor because if you can't skate in the league, like you can't really do anything because how are you supposed to
Yeah.
do anything if your feet can't get there? So um, yeah, he'll be going back to St. Cloud State for his second year. He had a great freshman season by all accounts. So yeah, hopefully he can work out the skating because if he can, I think there is a very useful player that could like in the NHL there if he can get that worked out.
I think so. I mean, like you mentioned the World Junior team that he was on the first power play unit and he was surrounded. He played the bumper and surrounding him was Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault, James Higgins, and Zeev Buium at the point. So for him to be included with those four is very impressive.
Yeah, see, and you need guys like that too because not every guy on your team, like I said before, is going to be like super flashy or like super high skilled. Like you need a good mix of guys, and he's a bigger kid too, so he's bigger, but he also still has like that kind of skill. Like there's I mean shootouts are like hit or miss, but like there's some moves I've seen him pull off where it's like, wow, he has like the creativity to do this kind of stuff. Like if you can just get like the skating to NHL average,
Yeah.
like I think he could be something.
All right. And one last topic. I want to do a little, I guess, rest of summer outlook because looking at Puckpedia right now, the Ducks have the most cap space in the NHL by over $5 million, $5.5 million. They have 28.99 million in cap space and with just Dostal, Hellison, and McTavish to sign. So they'll get to the cap floor. But are there moves to be made? Because we're hearing like that we needed the dust to settle before all these trades happen, and they haven't really started. So do you think there's any moves to be made, or is this kind of the team that we're gonna head into the training camp with?
Um, I mean, just based off of like previous history, I think this is pretty much the team that's gonna be heading into training camp. Like, you gotta get McTavish signed, Dostal, Hellison, Sam Colangelo's still in RFA. So you get those four guys locked down. I think that's kind of it because you have the goaltending set. It's well, not yet, but you will have it set. It's
Yeah.
gonna be Dostal and presumably Mrazek. And then the defense is pretty set for the most part too. You got Lacombe, you have Minchikov, Zellweger, and then you have Truba, Gudis, Hellison, Luno. I will be really interested to see how that kind of shapes out just because Verbeek had said Luno is going to be in the NHL next year. Last when he spoke last year at the deadline. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of manage that. Then barring anything else, I think like the top six, top nine is set. I think you'd mentioned that before. Um, so there's not really a lot to play around with unless they just wanted to make some like absolutely massive swing. Obviously,
Hmm.
that would change a lot, but I can't see like where like what would come from that. Like a lot of people have been talking about Jason Robertson to Anaheim. I don't know how that like fits. Like the only way that could happen is if you traded like McTavish. And I feel like they're not going to do that because then I mean, I don't even have like a good reason, but I feel like it's not going to happen. Like a lot of people are making the connections because he's from the area. The Stars are really close to the cap ceiling and all that, but I don't see that being like a realistic scenario. And that's probably maybe the only major move I could see them going for. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. The landscape of the NHL has kind of solidified since, I guess, the draft. And these players that we thought maybe could have been available ended up not being. And, uh, you know, again, the Ducks top nine is pretty set. So unless there is a monster move, like you had mentioned, I just don't see the point. Um, this just seems like this is going to be the team. Uh, and especially because everyone in the NHL, except for the Pittsburgh Penguins, are trying to get better. Everyone's trying to push for the playoffs. Everyone's trying to take the next step toward contention and all that. So there aren't many sellers, and especially because teams aren't against the cap as they were in previous years because of the increase. Teams don't have to sell these players, and that's the only reason that people thought Robertson might be available is because the Stars were up against it. Well, now they're not because they moved out Matt Dumba. So now there's kind of no reason for them to move on from a Robertson, and there aren't just it's just not a lot of options. So it's kind of looking like this is the team, and that's not, it's I think it's a serviceable team and a team that could make the playoffs, especially with the improved coaching staff. We didn't mention them, but um, you know, the from a technical standpoint, it seems like Verbeek has assembled maybe one of the best coaching staffs in the NHL, top to bottom, and um, just natural progression from the younger players. The team could squeak into a playoff spot, and then a few months into the season, when the dust kind of settles and the landscape shifts again, and teams are separated into contenders and pretenders and sellers and buyers, then players might be made available that could really improve the team mid-season. But as far as between now and training camp, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, the coaching staff part is interesting. I mean, we use the term interesting like all the time, but yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how much of an impact the coaching staff just as a whole, um, Jay Woodcroft and Ryan McGill. I think those are really solid ads. I don't know a lot about Andrew Brewer, but it seems like he does a lot of video work, just based off like stuff he's posted on Twitter before.
Hmm.
Ryan McGill is actually a guy I had kind of looked at when the Ducks had first been trying to fill out their staff when Greg Cronin came in, and I was really impressed with the work that he had done on the penalty kill. And so I'm pretty pumped to see that he got added to the staff. I'm looking forward to seeing how Jay Woodcroft kind of figures into everything in an assistant coach role now that he's not a head coach anymore. And then obviously, like for everything that's kind of happened in the past, Joel Quenneville's resume it speaks for itself. Mikael Granlund had kind of spoken about how well that was part of the allure too of wanting to sign here, and Chris Kreider had kind of talked about that too, as a whole, like I get to play for this coach that has won so much and is well respected within the league. So I think it's about holding Quenneville accountable, making sure he's kind of doing the things that he said he was going to do in his introductory presser, and making sure that that's going well. Because if the team is doing well, then stuff like that kind of gets swept under the rug. But if they're not doing well, and then that stuff kind of starts popping up, so I think it's important to make sure that like he's being held accountable. The organization's being held accountable for the things that they said they were going to do, being done regardless of how good or how bad the team's doing in the meantime.
Yeah, very well said. Um, yeah, and I think that'll do it. Anything else? That was pretty long.
No, yeah, I think that's it. We even covered coaching staff, which I
Uh,
had not thought to think about just because most of it had happened so long
yeah.
ago. But
Yeah, it's been a big off season for the Ducks so far, and I think it's going to be pretty quiet. We're gonna a few contract announcements coming up, but other than that, I think the busy time is gone, and we can all relax, take a breath, and get ready for September. So, Derek, thanks for doing this, and we'll talk soon, and hopefully, you know, well, we'll talk again.
yeah,
All right. So thanks again. And again, tune in to or go to thn.com/Anaheim for all important updates with the Ducks and what we're doing. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.